it's me, Vicky Marie. Sorry, I'm just looking up the websites that we're going to follow today, the Lancashire Live and the Lancashire Telegraph. So yeah, hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Right, I've got up the Lancashire Live. I just want to get up the Lancashire Telegraph. The Telegraph was very detailed, wasn't it? Very detailed, but it's handy to have the two of them up because, you know, you get a slightly different version, don't you, from different people. So this is the Slater Inquest. For those of you who maybe don't know what I'm talking about, Jay was this young lad who disappeared in Tenerife and then turned up at the bottom of a ravine, deceased, and it's thought that he accidentally fell to his death. But it's very mysterious why he was in that area in the first place. Few things sort of about his friends and what their stories are and what that don't sort of tie up, or they said different things. You know, there are mysteries around this case. There's no doubt about it. Whether you believe Jay died of an accident, or as many people believe that he died as a result of foul play, there are things that don't add up, whichever sort of, you know, avenue you think of. And of course, yesterday was the inquest, all the testimony. Now, that was a long stream that I did yesterday. It was, I think it was about 6.5 hours or something, the whole day. And I'm breaking it down gradually into, like I've done Ayub's testimony this morning. I break down all the different testimonies. So, because some people don't like to watch a great big long video. I'll be doing that over the weekend, over the next few days. But this morning, what's happening is the conclusion. The coroner, Mr. Adeley, he's going to give his verdict. You know, some of us think he already decided his verdict before this even started. And really, I think I don't think in a million years he's going to say foul play. It's just not going to. But he may decide on an open verdict. Now, for those who, sorry, I'm just looking for a photo of him. I thought I had a photo of Mr. Adeley. I mean, I have got a photo of him. It's just I haven't got it to hand, but I'll find it. Yeah, James Adeley, he was the coroner in the Nicola Bulley case, which probably a lot of you are watching. You'll remember the case of Nicola Bulley. He made the decision that it was accidental death. Again, a lot of people weren't happy with that. But what we always have to remember is the family were happy with that verdict. Maybe it made it easier for insurance policies, etc. They didn't want to feel that Nicola had unalived herself, did they? Oh, here he is. Let's have a look at him. And, you know, they had a barrister there at the inquest who pushed for the accidental death verdict. So again, although a lot of people weren't sort of happy with that verdict, they're not necessarily people, you know, not the family. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't it? Because if the family are happy with the verdict, it's difficult for me as a YouTuber then to question it or challenge it, because I am not Nicola Bulley's family. I'm not the one having to live without Nicola every day. And, you know, I personally, you know, if the truth were told, I do think there's more to the Nicola Bulley case. And I think 100% certain it should have been an open verdict. And especially because I've looked into other cases that this man has handled very similar, where it couldn't be established how the person got into the water. And they've been recorded as open verdicts. So I don't really understand why Nicola's wasn't. But anyway, it wasn't. And maybe that's better for her daughters, having to live with that uncertainty. But anyway, that's who this man is. Now, he has actually retired. So we were saying yesterday, he's a TV coroner as well, isn't he? He appears on the, he's got a TV show, you know, as well, talking about cases and things. So he's a bit of a, well, he thinks he's a bit of a celebrity. So he likes his limelight. He likes to be in the public eye. He likes to be on the telly. So, and he was supposed to retire. And this inquest that was originally heard in May, and then was a total fiasco because the witnesses didn't turn up, etc. It was rescheduled originally for September, they said. And then suddenly, lo and behold, boom, here it is in July, just before he officially retires. All right, he's brought himself back for this case, and you've got to question why. And to me, the reason why is ego. He likes his 10 minutes in the sun, doesn't he? He likes his 10 minutes of fame. And he wanted to be part of this inquest because it's a high profile inquest. But it's not coming back for other inquests. Anyway, that's Dr. Adeley. We've all got our view on him. Also, he's the one that said he couldn't release any information, but then if you pay £400 or whatever, you can get Nicola Bulley's autopsy report. And I'm sure you could get Jay's autopsy report or anything you wanted if you paid the right amount of money. So that's my reasons for not liking Mr. Adeley. But having said that, he's a senior coroner. He's had a long career. He used to be an ear, nose and throat specialist. I think that's where his doctor title comes in. He ended up being the chief coroner. He's obviously got friends in high places. But he is now retired. So I bet after this case, he won't be taking any more cases. So all the evidence finishes today. It was a very difficult day, a very confusing day of conflicting evidence. I don't feel that really, personally, I don't feel it brought us any further on. I don't know how Debbie felt because Debbie is Jay's mum. She was there yesterday. His dad, of course, and his brother, Zak, they were there. I don't know how, and they also took with them, or Debbie was accompanied by her partner, and a brief, a solicitor, which of course is what the Bulley family did, took along a solicitor. I'm glad Debbie did that, for her moral support. But I don't think the solicitor seemed to be quite tough when she was interviewing Brad, who was the first witness. So the witnesses did turn up this time, except for Rocky and Brandon. They didn't turn up. Rocky's gone completely AWOL, hasn't he? But Brad turned up. Ayub turned up on video link from another country, but we didn't get to know which country it was. Lucy testified by video link due to her condition, but they haven't told us what her condition is. What does that mean? Is she pregnant? Is she mentally ill? Is she, what? He just said due to her condition. So I don't know what her condition is. But Rocky, he has gone completely AWOL. He's wanted for other things, apparently. I mean, he's not wanted for this. He just wanted to give evidence. But apparently the police were looking for him anyway. So that might explain a little bit about why he hasn't turned up. We heard yesterday. As I say, I'm going to be chopping up. You can either watch the whole live stream if you've got a whole day to waste to listen, or wait until I've chopped up into all the different parts of it, and I'll be releasing them bit by bit. We heard yesterday all the details of how he'd been. People, they've attempted to contact him with everything except bloody carrier pigeon and smoke signals, really, and he hasn't materialised. So that's sketchy, isn't it? And Brandon, of course, Brad, when they were asked about the watch, Brad said, ask Brandon. And Lucy said there was no watch, but then she said there was. Ayub said there definitely wasn't a watch stolen. Oh, it was like you're sort of listening to it and thinking, oh, my God, where is the truth here, isn't it? And I don't know what sort of a night Debbie's had, or Warren or Zak, waiting for this final verdict. We're going to get, so overnight, so it all finishes today. All the evidence was presented, and the coroner said he's going to, he's going to do his summing up this morning and deliver his verdict. And who knows what the verdict will be, but I know it won't be foul play. There's no doubt about that, because it would have gone to the police by now if it was. But yeah, I think it's really either an open verdict or accidental death. Personally, I think it's going to be accidental death, but I could be wrong. It might surprise me. I don't know what Debbie wants. Does she want it to be an accidental death verdict? Would she prefer an open verdict so more investigations can be done? I think the family has to have a huge input really in these things. So I hope she had a better evening than I had. So here in Spain, for those of you who don't know, I'm based in Spain, in the south of Spain. Last night we had the most horrible storm I've ever known in all the years I've lived in Spain, which are not that far off 30 years now. And it was really scary. Honestly, it was just weird, because I've lived through many storms here, and we had massive storms a few years ago just before COVID. But I think ever since COVID, the weather's been odd. I'm going to do a video on that. There's definitely weather tampering going on, not only in Spain, all over the world. I've never experienced a storm like that. It was really strange. It was absolutely terrifying. I can honestly say I was really scared. And normally I quite like storms. People were screaming. It came so quick, and cars were abandoned. You wouldn't even know it happened now. The skies are clear, and it has, cleared the air a lot, but there's debris everywhere. I mean, it was, I just can't explain what it was like. I was literally praying, thinking, is it going to take the house away or whatever? It was, you see so many of these horror stories now about floods, etc. And then it upset my dogs, and one of my dogs was nearly murdered by another one because she was so scared. She got out of her room. She doesn't like she's a big Alsatian. She doesn't like the little dogs. She attacked them. It was chaos. And I was here on my own because number one son, he was off out. He was in a bar somewhere. He didn't hardly notice anything was going on. Well, he knew obviously it was raining, but I had to, save my dog. I tell you, it was terrifying. It was terrifying the whole evening. So I haven't had much sleep. So I'm having a bit of a whinge. I haven't had much sleep. I probably only had a couple of hours sleep because it was storming right into the night, into the morning. But anyway, we're all okay. We're all okay. And I hope nobody has been affected too much by that storm. But it always makes you worry. To me, I always worry about, there's two things I worry about. Homeless people, what do they do when there's storms like that? And of course, homeless animals, either strays or even wild animals. What happens to them when it storms like that? Where do they take cover? So, I'd spent a lot of time praying last night. Now, I expect Debbie spent a lot of time praying for a different reason. At the end of the day, I'm whinging about something that's something and nothing. I have not lost my son, thank goodness. And I don't know what their night was like, and I don't know what result they're hoping for this morning. But that's what we're going to see, not what result they're hoping for, because we don't know. So let's see where we are. Have they arrived at court yet? See, so they're supposed to start 10 o'clock this morning. No, so all it's saying so far on Lancashire Live is the coroner is due to deliver his conclusion today. Dr James Adeley is due to deliver his official final conclusion on how tragic teenager Jay Slater died. New live blog. Oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong one. Oh. So apparently it's 10:19 in the UK. Right, let me share this. Now, I want to say quickly before I start, thank you to everyone, of course, for watching yesterday, for people who've supported me, for people who care about Jay. I'll read this out in a moment. I just want to say a few thank yous. So I want to say, of course, thank you to people for watching, liking, subscribing. Special thanks to my members. I'm sorry I didn't do a members live last night. I was absolutely exhausted because I'd been on a live stream all day. I know my members will appreciate that and understand that. But I think tonight I will be doing the members live. If there's no other, seems like, just never know what's going to happen, do you? I've also got a couple of thank yous I want to give, because there was a super chat that I missed yesterday from Julie. I don't know why it either didn't come up on the screen, or it may be that I was, it was quite a busy day yesterday. It may be that I missed it. So I just want to say thank you to Julie for the super chat. And also overnight, like in between streams, I've received a Ko-fi, Bluebell bought me a Ko-fi. So thank you so much for that. So I really appreciate people supporting my channel in any way. Thank you. Okay, so hi, lovely lurkers. Hi, replay crew. Hi to all of you in the chat who I'm just going to come in and say hello to now. So remember the rules of the chat. No mentioning other podcasters or the social media channels, and just be polite to each other and me, of course. And I'm on a one strike you're out. I'm not even going to mention it if anyone. It's just gone because it's too much effort to try and keep up with subtle trolls and what have you. And life's too short, and I can't be asked. Hi, Westside. Hi, Julie. Hi, Jackie. I don't know if the barrister will even be talking today, Jack. I don't know, maybe. Hi, Yvonne. Yeah, why didn't Jay have charge on his phone if he charged it up in the kitchen? Yeah, strange. Hi, Bluebell. Yeah, he said he plugged it in the kitchen. He definitely said that. This is what I mean. There's so many contradictions. Very contradictory, and if he did plug it in, he should have had at least an hour's charge. He was there about an hour. He wasn't there very long, so maybe he wouldn't have had a full charge. But he should have had some charge, shouldn't he? Hi, Daniel. Hi, ACW. Hi, Annie. Good morning. Hi, Jacqueline Hunt. Hi, Catherine. Yeah, big collective. Hi. I should do that. Yeah, there were a lot of lies. Hi, Pork Chop. Yeah, prayers for the family today, most definitely. I hope they just get the result that they want, Hi, Pam. Hi, Emma. They're always delayed, aren't they, Emma? It seems like every day they're delayed. Hi, Moonbeam. Hi, Paula. Thank you. Don't feel very pretty, I can tell you. Hi, Rachel. A very, very stressful night last night. But anyway, God, it was weird. And then waking up this morning, it's like nothing's there. If you didn't see the debris everywhere, there's debris all over the streets and that. They need to send the street cleaners out and clear everything up. If you couldn't see that, you would think, you think, it's a beautiful day. It's 30 degrees, but the humidity's not as high as it has been, so it feels comfortable. It'd be hot later, but you don't mind heat. Oh, yesterday it was so humid all day, and the wind was blowing. There was a really strong wind, and you knew it was going to storm, but it's funny because it was sort of dark and it felt like it was going to storm all day, really. And then suddenly I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning when it started, but people got caught in cars and, but coming back from the airports, or, people were screaming. They were so scared. People were scared. That's unusual. It was a different storm. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that. I think the weather's being messed with, personally. Okay, so now that I've said hello to everyone, let's read this. Oh, here we go. It started. Oh, so he's expected to give a short form conclusion. That's what he did with the Nicola Bulley case again. So, he can give a narrative conclusion. And what that means is when you look on the coroner's website, to see what the conclusion was, if there's like something that's not clear cut about it, he normally gives a narrative conclusion. So it explains all the reasons why he came to the conclusion. Whereas other times you get the short conclusion, which is just accidental death, suicide, whatever, the open verdict or whatever. Now, with the Nicola Bulley case, which clearly was not clear cut, whatever you think happened to Nicola Bulley, whether you think it was foul play, whether you think she did something to herself, whether you think she accidentally fell in, someone pushed her in, whatever, it's not clear cut, is it? Because nobody knows for certain. Nobody saw it happen. She didn't leave any notes or anything like that. So it certainly isn't clear cut. But the actual conclusion on the website is Nicola Bulley died an accidental death. It's not a narrative conclusion. He doesn't go into the reasons why he came to that conclusion. It's just accidental death, full stop. So apparently this is what he's going to do today. So this morning, the coroner, Dr. James Adeley, will, he'll be a sir, I expect, sooner or later. He's in that club, isn't he? Will deliver his summing up and conclusion. The coroner has already indicated that his conclusion will be a short form. Short form conclusions include accident, self-deletion, misadventure, where death is the unintended consequence of an intended act. He might rule misadventure, might he? Unlawful killing, industrial disease, drug-related death, alcohol-related death, natural causes, or road traffic collision. Obviously, in this case, most of those will not be relevant. Well, it's not going to be an open verdict then, because that's not on that list. So yesterday, the inquest heard evidence about the stolen Rolex. Oh, this bloody Rolex. And then, of course, it was changed to a different kind of watch. I think that was just Jay probably messing about personally, but I just don't know. I mean, Jay was off his face. So those messages he sent, it could be anything, can't they? Drunken texting, we've all done that as well. With pals saying it was probably fake and that Jay did not steal a watch. They said the more likely explanation for his claims was that he was exaggerating. And of course, the person that knows most about it is Brandon. Brandon did not give evidence. Amy Fenton, who has been following Jay's tragic story since the very start, has detailed all the evidence heard about the watch. Now, if we get a lull, I might come back to that. The coroner is about to come into court, and to recap, the coroner is Dr. James Adeley, who also oversaw the inquest into the death of Nicola Bulley. Dr. Adeley recently retired but has returned as a temporary coroner under legislation which allows him to do so when cases have not concluded. So he'll be saying that he's come back because he opened the inquest in May, but he's really come back because he likes the celebrity of it, doesn't it? Oh, so we're now hearing a statement from Jay's mum, Debbie, in which she describes her son as the life and soul. Debbie says our lives will never be the same. Please remember that Jay was a real person, she adds. He may just have been a story, but he did touch the hearts of the nation. Oh God, I'm crying now, my God. Yeah, and he did touch the hearts of the nation, because I know we don't all agree about what happened to Jay or whatever, but most of us, I think 99% of us, same with Nicola Bulley, how everyone has different views on what happened to Nicola. But I think one thing you say is people were touched by Nicola's story. They cared about her, they care about Jay, they cared, when he was being searched for, everyone hoped. I mean, you got some horrible people like thinking it was hilarious and laughing about it. You're always going to get that, but then nothing, then no one. You know, they'll never touch anyone's lives. You'll be lucky if they even touch their own family's lives. And it's because they've got such sad lives that they have to be horrible about everybody else. Whereas Jay, you know, for all his faults, I think almost because of his faults, because he'd been through a difficult time when he was younger and done bad things, and he had done bad things, but he came through it and he had a job, and his employer spoke very highly of him. His family love him. He had loads of friends, you know, and that. So there's a lot of people who'll be jealous of that, and they will, as I say, they will never touch people's lives in any way. They'd be struggling to touch their own family's lives. Their own family probably don't even give a shit about him. That's how people turn into trolls, because what you've got to think is you've got to have quite a sad personality, haven't you, to actually find enjoyment from going online and being nasty to people. You've got to be something wrong with you, hasn't it? You've got to need help yourself. So, you know, to me, I think, yeah, whatever you think about what happened to Jay or didn't happen to him, people cared about him, and that big smile of his, and, you know, he did touch the hearts of a nation. That's got to be some comfort, hasn't it? Surely, you know, that people cared so much one way or another. You know, I know, as I say, some people were nasty, but that's the thing about the internet, isn't it? You get so many lovely people, but you do get some twonks as well. So her statement continued. He was learning to drive, and he had so many plans and a bright future ahead of him. He was counting down the days when he flew to Tenerife. Never in a million years did we predict what was to unfold. Jay was a bundle of fun with a constant smile. So now the coroner has begun to sum up the case. I've just I just check on the, I haven't missed anyone coming in. I hope you're all okay in chat. I think you are. I think you're all okay. I think you're all okay. Yeah, it's only going to be the conclusion and verdict today. There's going to be no other witnesses. It is strange that Rocco couldn't be found, but I think knowing that he's wanted by the police for another thing maybe explains that. Brandon's in another country. Do you know what I think with Brandon? I think that he made a big thing about this thing about the watch and the knives down the trousers. I don't think any of that was true, and I think he's probably be too embarrassed, because he probably told that to Mark Williams Twonk. Mark Williams Twonk probably paid him for the information. You know, Mark Williams Twonk, he made a big thing of it as well. People making big things of things for nothing, for clicks, for attention, trying to pretend he's a big shot. So, yeah, that's what I think. But anyway, the coroner begins to sum up the case. He's now delivering his summing up. He's explaining how Jay's body was formally identified using his fingerprints and palm prints. Now, a lot of people said, oh, how could he have his fingerprints after he'd been 4 weeks out in the element? But I have been reading up about that. It's amazing what they can do as long as there's one tiny bit of flesh still attached to the fingers or the palms. It only has to be the tiniest amount. They do this process which almost regenerates it, and they can do the DNA off it. So obviously if it had been years, they can't do it because there'd be nothing left. But because it was a month and there was still something left, they could do it. So it's interesting. So the post-mortem noted that Jay's body had undergone extensive mummification due to him being out in the hot sun for several weeks before he was discovered on July the 15th. And now this is what I hope for. I hope, you know, the pathologist is saying it, maybe saying it for parents' comfort, I don't know, but I hope it's true. Pathologist Dr. Mark Shepherd, he's a reputable pathologist, isn't he? He said he's another TV guy though, of course, said Jay's death was probably instantaneous. The cause of death was a severe traumatic brain injury. Now, going back to this TV thing, I don't think I'm in favour of these people being on TV as until they've retired. After they've retired, I mean, you get a lot of ex-detectives, don't you, doing TV shows and stuff. Fair enough, when they've retired. But when they're actually still in their post, it just seems a little bit, is it just me? It seems a little bit icky, but I don't know. At the end of the day, they're still doing those jobs. They're not retired from those jobs. Toxicology tests revealed that he had taken MDMA, cocaine, and alcohol prior to his death. He was also dehydrated. I think all those things, he definitely wasn't compos mentis, or he would have thought he was, because especially if he'd been taking cocaine, I mean, it keeps you up all night, doesn't it? You think you can do anything. It's not a drug that makes you fall asleep. Even that Ayub said, didn't he, that the only way sometimes to come down is to then smoke a joint or take a sleeping tablet. So Jay was still awake. He wasn't ready to go to sleep. He didn't really want to go to sleep, did he? When Rocky apparently went off to sleep and Ayub did, he didn't want to go to sleep. He wasn't at that point. But I still think it's strange that he went back to the Airbnb. I don't think we'll ever know. Only Ayub knows that now, the real reason that he went back to the Airbnb. Maybe it is true what he says, and he just asked to because he just wanted to. He wasn't ready to go home. That happens as well, doesn't it? But I don't know if we'll ever know for certain. The Spanish authorities had also conducted a toxicology analysis, which also detected that Jay had also used ketamine, both shortly before his death and over a longer period. And as I say, that made me feel, especially for Debbie, but for Warren as well, I suppose, to know, maybe you always suspect that your child is taking drugs, and if you haven't got children, I'm talking to anybody who's watching. If you haven't got children yet, maybe you're younger, you wouldn't even think about, maybe you take these substances. A lot of young people do. But believe me, when you're older and you've got children and you find out that they're taking things like this, it's a shocker. Because you just, 1 minute, when you have children, 1 minute they're just like little kids, who want to go with you everywhere. And, they're just so loving and sweet. And, it is literally that Kevin the teenager moment, isn't it? Then suddenly they wake up one day and you can't, they hate you, and they just got, their friends are more important. They start smoking or taking drugs or drinking or whatever. And it's like, you're thinking, who is this child? What happened to my child? And that happens, and that probably happened with Jane. Of course, he got into trouble, didn't he? And luckily for him, he was arrested, but he wasn't given prison, was he? He was given like rehabilitation. It worked for him. But what I'm trying to say is, this must have been difficult for Debbie, because I bet Debbie's never taken ketamine. I'm not saying she's never drank. I'm sure she might have even taken cocaine. I don't know. But a lot of the drugs that the young people take these days, older people would never have taken. They might have taken a bit of marijuana or whatever. Certainly alcohol, probably years gone by, would have been a more common thing that people would have taken. Until the 90s, wasn't it, I suppose? Drugs became so common, Though I do remember some, when I was in my 20s, some younger kids, about 15, 16, they were glue sniffing. Glue sniffing was a thing. I think I just missed out on it, or thank God for that. Oh, and of course, he'd been doing those balloons, hadn't he, the laughing gas. So, that's a lot of things to do in one night, all those different things. It's a wonder he was, it's not really a surprise what happened to him when you look at it in that way. So the coroner has referred to Jay and Bradley being too drunk to get out of their clothes after one night of drinking in Tenerife. He says this gives some indication. Where's it gone? This gives some indication to the extent of the partying occurring. yes, there's probably not many of us when we were young who couldn't be bothered getting into pajamas or whatever. Just I think when what I remember is you just wanted to get home. And I was always had a long way home because I used to go out Manchester city centre, and I lived in Charlton, and it was, an hour on the bus or whatever. And so it'd be the late night bus. I'd normally fall asleep on the late night bus, miss my stop and have to walk back. Just couldn't wait to get home, get in, maybe make something to eat, because you're normally starving, aren't you, after you get home? Well, then anyway, because I think in Britain people go out for a drink, don't they? And they drink and don't necessarily eat. They might get some chips on the way or something, or a kebab. But, we didn't have kebab shops then, so I would probably roll in, make something to eat. My mum and dad would go mad in the morning because there'd be pots everywhere. That's what my son does now. I've just got up this morning, because he's arrived in at sort of 5 a.m. and decided he wants to make a great big meal. So you just, food, then bed, isn't it? So I don't think it's unusual to fall asleep in your clothes when you're young and you've had a few drinks. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Or you'd sometimes we'd go for an Indian afterwards. So be out in Manchester town centre, we'd go to this Indian, which was up near Victoria bus station. I can't remember the name of it, but that was the late night Indian and then you'd have your Indian, and then you'd be sat there and you'd be absolutely stuffed, and you just want to go. You just want to be beamed up and beamed into your bed. You've got to get home yet. And that would be then you'd go and get the late night bus or get your taxi or whatever you were doing that particular night. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When you're young, I don't think there's anything unusual about what Jay did for what young people do, especially his first holiday abroad. You go a bit even madder, don't you? People just lose their head, don't they? That's why so many young people die abroad. It's not because there's something suspicious about being abroad. It's they're on holiday and they throw caution to the winds. So the coroner mentions that a common theme throughout the evidence is that Jay's friends have been asked to recall events after consuming copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. And I do think that's true, to be honest. I do agree with Dr. Adeley there. I think a lot of the reason that the statements are all confusing and conflicting is they don't even remember, probably. They were probably off their head completely, and now suddenly they've got to remember these things a year later. They probably didn't even remember them the day after. They were all out of it. So I do think that's a problem with the whole thing, isn't it? It's a problem. Hi, Lily. Hi, Angel. Hi, Cornish. Yeah, he definitely made his decision. Yeah, I agree, Mia Media. The problem with a lot of the drugs now is that as well. I think the drugs now mean that the cannabis now that it's got all those chemicals in, and people say, cannabis is good for you. It's not good for you. And believe me, I know, because I've looked into it in a big way for a reason, and it's not good for you. It's terrible for you. It's full of chemicals. It's not like the marijuana that people used to smoke years ago. It's completely different. And then cocaine and things like that. Thing is, you get a little bag of cocaine, you haven't got a clue what's in it. You don't know what quality it is. It's a lot cheaper now than it used to be, and there's a reason for that. So, these drugs now, they're just, it always amazes me, because a lot of young people are very health conscious, aren't they? They'll say, oh no, I'm not eating that, or I'm not doing that. That's bad for you. And then they'll go and snort a load of cocaine up their nose that don't even know where it's come from, or take tablets or smoke weed that's like full of chemicals. It's funny, really, isn't it? And then maybe they're a vegan. I'm a vegan. Oh no, I don't eat anything unhealthy. But they take all this crap into the body. Good God. It's like you've just got to think about it, haven't you? Drugs are bad for you. They are bad for you. I don't care. Nobody's going to say to you that drugs are good for you, are they? Except ibuprofen, of course. That's my drug of choice. So, Coroner recounts Jay Slater's final night out. When Jay and his friends meet up after he had been thrown out of the club due to not being able to stand up, they pleaded with him to come home with them, but he insisted on staying out. No, not that long ago, I had to take a girl home that I worked with. When I say take her and make sure she got to her taxi, because she was like that. She just could. We'd gone out for a night out. She was absolute. I'm always the sensible one on the night out. Of course, I'm normally the oldest now, so I suppose that's fair enough. Maybe I wasn't the sensible one when I was young. And she was absolutely off her head. And she, I'm going to get a taxi. And I said, oh, well, I'll walk you to the taxi rank. No, I'll be fine. She couldn't even stand up. But, she was insisting. Anyway, obviously I didn't let her go to the taxi rank on her own. Got to the taxi rank, put her in a taxi, told the taxi driver where to go. And she just and prayed because, taxi driver might have been a bit dodgy, mightn't he? But, it's... Sorry, it's just someone sending me some information about Jay, not knowing that I'm on a live talking about him. So, when Jay and his friends met up after he'd been thrown out of the club due to not being able to stand up, they pleaded with him to come home with them, but he insisted on staying out. Jay then asked Ayub Kazim if he could stay out with him and Stephen Rockers. Ayub told Jay it was some distance away, but he offered to give Jay a lift back in the morning. And at around 6:09, he sent a Snapchat to Bradley Geoghegan, which showed him to be in the Masca area. Ayub Kazim, who was driving, stopped to get soft drinks, a Fanta for himself and a Coca-Cola for Jay and Stephen Rokas. And then the coroner says, and I do agree with him, I do think this Rolex is irrelevant. I thought it right from the beginning. I think this is something created to cause a stir, with Mark Williams' twonk and that. It's just like, and it caused more problems. And, Mark Williams' twonk, he does the same thing every time. He criticises social media people. He criticises the police. And then it's him who's stirring up things. So the coroner is now dealing with the issue of the watch. The coroner refers to the various Snapchat messages in which Jay's claimed to have stolen a watch. He points out that the brand of the watch was different in each message, and in evidence, Ayub said people often boosted themselves up in messages. And Dr. Adeley says, now, you might not all agree with him, I consider the watches irrelevant to subsequent events. I personally do agree with him, but it's not often that I do agree with him. But so then the knives issue is addressed amid social media boosting claim. And the coroner is now turning to the issue of knives. Josh Forshaw, who gave evidence at the inquest in May, said that he received a Snapchat from Jay, who was lifting up his top and showing kitchen knives inserted down his trousers in case it kicks off. The coroner points out that Josh didn't ask any questions about this, nor did he mention this to Jay's friends when he took a taxi back to their apartment. At 7:30 a.m. on the morning Jay disappeared. And the coroner concludes, I do not consider that this report with the image of knives is reliable evidence and is more likely to be social media boosting. Again, I do agree with him for the simple reason is I've never seen that photo. Has anyone actually seen that real photo? I know Josh said about it. But the Snapchat had disappeared, he said, didn't he? Or, you can't keep those images. So, yeah, I just don't believe it. You can't believe it unless you've actually got the photo, can you? You can't, to be honest. Oh, right, that's it so far. Yeah, I couldn't get the Lancashire Telegraph up. Somebody was saying they couldn't get the Lancashire. That's yesterday's feed. They said they'd be back today. Let's have a look. Lancashire Telegraph. So they did give very very concise. Yeah, no, there's nothing up there for today for some reason. I can't see Lancashire Telegraph is coming up. I wonder if I can find maybe this Sky News has got a live feed. Yeah, Sky News has got a live feed, but I wouldn't say... right, they've got a new thing on there. Let's have a look. So this is Sky News, 13 minutes ago. Jay Slater, so calling him Slater, I hate that. Jay Slater, use the first name. Have some respect. God's sake. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Anyway, we're now hearing from Coroner Dr James Adeley, who's summing up the evidence that we have heard. He explains that Jay's body underwent a post-mortem examination on its return to the UK. There were no injuries that would indicate third-party involvement in Jay's death, the coroner said. He adds that the injuries sustained by Jay... God, why do they keep calling him Slater? Even the coroner refers to him as Jay, for God's sake. Jay would not have been aware of his situation after his fall, and he wouldn't have been in any pain, he says, adding that he hopes this is of some consolation to the family. I hope so, because, you know, it does how it must torment his mum, because he's not even my son. And it torments me to think of him lying there and hurting, you know, before he died. I hope he died instantly. I hope and pray that he did. Bless him. So the coroner turns to the events that led up to his death in Tenerife and outlines the evidence heard yesterday. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? So, yeah. I thought that came first. Yeah, that I don't like the order of that. Doesn't seem right. No, I'm going back to Lancashire Live. There seems to be a little break. So while there's a little break, I'll just have a look at the chat and I'll bottom to top. Then Mark Williams Twonk is a complete liar. He lies about everything, Charlie. Lies about everything. Of course he's a liar. Lies about anything that he thinks will create attention for him. Nothing, everything he said at first, he's now backtracking on. You know, he went in an interview, said he believed it was an accident. So why was he trying to make it? Why is he trying to make it more sensational? Because that's what he does. You know, that's what he does. Is he tries to? It's not relevant anymore, but he tries to be relevant. James, I'm going to delete that comment because it's just not appropriate to what we're talking about here. It's not appropriate. You know it isn't. You know what? Whenever I talk about either Jay Slater or Nicola Bulley, all these weirdos come out of the woodwork. It's just like, what? It's really odd. You know, I can talk about other cases and never get a problem. And then if it's either Jay Slater or Nicola Bulley, load of weirdos. And I think just people deliberately trying to disrupt us. I know I've got my own theory on who's behind it. I know exactly who's behind them all. Just weird how it pops up. Yeah, it could be a bot. Could be a bot Moonbeam. But also, yeah, maybe they just look for, I don't know, popular themes because Jay's a, people like to hear about Jay. So, there's a few more coming up now. So, Jay was still under the influence when he set off to catch a bus. When Jay told Ayub Kazim he was going to catch a bus back to his apartment, Ayub told him there aren't any buses. However, Jay said he had spoken to the woman who had asked Ayub to move his car, and she had said there was one in 10 minutes. Ayub said that Jay still appeared to be under the influence that would make him more confident and impulsive. At 8:30 on the morning, he disappeared. Jay's smartwatch recorded him walking. At 8:10, 8:15, Luisa Hernandez was driving and she saw Jay walking along the right-hand side of the road, and she said it appeared he was walking in a brisk pace. At 8:21, Jay called Brandon Hodgson. Brandon's a sketchy character. He didn't want to give evidence. Why would you not want to give evidence at supposedly your friend's inquest? Of course, if you were asked to give evidence, if you thought you could help in any way to bring peace to his family or to add clarification to what had happened to him, you would be glad to talk. So he's very sketchy, and I think the reason for it all is the whole lifestyle that all these people live is obviously big drug influence, isn't there? So a lot of them, it's like they say different stories because A, they can't actually remember what happened. B, they're probably worried about compromising themselves in some way with whatever they're up to and they could get into trouble for. It's because otherwise, how would you be so evasive when it's your friend's inquest and that their family are distraught and want to know what happened to them? You would be glad to help. So Brandon, he's a bad person. Brandon's a bad person. And Rocky, but at least Ayub, at least he gave testimony. He didn't have to. He could have been evasive. He's in a different country. Don't know whether he's there permanently or what. Lucy, Brad, we might not agree with them or approve of their lifestyle, whatever it is. But at least they did, give their evidence. But yeah, Brandon and Rocco, they're like real sketchy characters, aren't they? So at 8:21, Jay called Brandon. Brandon said he could see that Jay was in the mountains. Jay told Brandon he was leaving the road. Brandon said Jay was not hurt or in distress or frightened, but he did not appear to be himself, something he was unable to explain further when asked, the coroner said. Jay then called Bradley Geergan. Jay said he had left the Airbnb to come back and start drinking again. Bradley did not think anything had happened at the Airbnb to make him leave. He asked Jay if he knew where he was and to turn maps on. Jay said it was an hour's drive or a 14-hour walk. And at the end of this call, Jay's phone battery was at 3%. And that does seem strange because if he was charging up his phone in the Airbnb for at least an hour, why did he only have 3%? Does seem strange, doesn't it? So apparently he was still under the influence. So his pal Lucy urged him to go back as the phone battery dwindled to 2%. Brandon then called Lucy and told her that Jay was up in the mountains. Lucy called Jay several times in which she asked him if he knew where he was. Jay said that his mouth was dry, he needed a drink and he was frightened. He was completely lost by then. He was lost. He'd gone so far up into the mountains. He couldn't see where to go from there, but he couldn't find his way back to the Airbnb. So Lucy told him to go back. And at the end of this call, Jay's phone was at 2%. At 8:35 a.m., Lucy told Jay to go back again. And at 8:49, Jay's phone recorded its last data. At 8:52 a.m., Jay called Lucy again. His phone was at 1%, and all he could see was the mountains. He was completely lost. And, probably, I know it's, the benefit of hindsight. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Probably what Lucy should have said to him, or what he should have done. It's not Lucy's fault. It's just stay where he was. Maybe she should have said to him, stay where you are. Don't move. I'm going to phone the police. And the mountain rescue would have gone out. They would have found him. He wouldn't have died of exposure in like an hour. He would have had to have been there for days, wouldn't he? So he should have, and he was, sounds like he was in the open. If he would have just sat down, stayed where he was, okay, he was thirsty and he should have not moved from where he was. Lucy could have phoned the police, sent out the mountain rescue, and they would have found him with heat seeking or with dogs or whatever. But of course, that's the benefit of hindsight, isn't it? So she probably thought she was doing the right thing by telling him to go back, but he couldn't find his way back because he was lost, because it all looks the same. And then the next minute, he's in a ravine. So Jay was found 29 days after he went missing by 2 members of the Spanish Mountain Rescue Group in the Juan Lopez Ravine. The first 13 days of the search were conducted by various organizations. By the 13th day, all accessible paths had been searched. The search was complicated due to vegetation, steep cliffs, and difficult terrain. Jay was found 8 meters above the dry riverbed, and his bag was around a further 20 meters above, containing his phone and his passport. He is believed to have fallen 20 to 30 meters. Bless him. So, so his phone was there with him in his bag. Wasn't found on the beach like some weird social media people are saying. The mountain rescue team said the Juan Lopez Ravine is unfrequented by people due to the lack of water source and difficult terrain. Yeah, the Juan Lopez Ravine. So Jay Slater's lack of training and poor judgment were factors in his fall, according to the coroner. His lack of training, poor judgment, lack of sleep and water, inappropriate clothing and lack of a hat, and any after effects of the drugs from the night before were all factors in his fall. They would seriously compromise Jay's ability to react to a slip or a fall. And here we are. We knew it, didn't we? The coroner delivers final conclusion of accidental death. And the coroner says J. Dean Slater died on the 17th of June 2024 in the Juan Lopez Ravine in a remote area of Tenerife. Whilst attempting to descend the ravine, Jay fell in a difficult area. Jay Slater fell approximately 20 to 25 meters, resulting in skull fracture and brain trauma, from which he would have died instantly. I hope he did die instantly. There was no third party involved. J. Dean Slater died an accidental death. That's the final conclusion. So what do we think? I'm going to put a poll up in a minute. Wonder what Debbie thinks. Is she happy with that verdict? Why did she have legal brief there? What was the purpose of that? Because the legal brief that is, didn't really question Ayub very closely. Questioned Brad quite closely, I don't know, but didn't really question Ayub that closely. What was the purpose of of them being there, I wonder. Anyway. Hi, Michelle. So, that is the verdict. I can see you've all got mixed reactions to it. Some of you saying, yep, it probably is right. Other people saying, it's not. Okay, so let me see if I can put a poll up. Thank you, Spyro, and thank you, ACW. Let's have a poll. Now, I do think, you know, the life that these people, that they live, it's a life we don't understand, or most of us don't understand. Probably some people out there who do understand it. Maybe they live a similar lifestyle. But of course, that doesn't make them murderers, does it? Just because somebody is involved in the drugs world or whatever it may be, allegedly. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I can't do that as a podcaster, or I shouldn't do it. I know people do it, but I can't do that. I don't know them. Doesn't make them murderers, does it? I think they're all drugged up. They were all drunk. They were all off their faces. And none of them really remember what happened, probably. But the ones that, like Brandon, I think, deliberately has lied just for the fun of it. Like just the hype of it. Maybe he's been paid by Mark Williams twonk to give information that isn't true. And then, you see, it only takes one thing. There was a lot of videos, photos, and that were literally faked and circulated around social media. And that's what I think Debbie was trying to say. At the end of the day, whatever, Jay was her son. Is a person. It's not a story. It's not a social media meme. He's a person who existed. And he had a mother and a father and a brother, and he had friends. I mean, they might not have been very good friends, these ones. But, I think it's not entertainment. This is somebody's life. Somebody died. And although the lifestyle that those other kids maybe are involved with and that is not something we would approve of, it doesn't mean that they murdered him. But we'll see. Well, maybe Warren will make a statement, and maybe Debbie will make a statement. Of course, we've got them filming a documentary. Don't forget the documentary film crew were there. When Debbie turned up yesterday, she had a partner with her in the documentary, a brief with her in the documentary film crew. So we'll see. What do you think she'll come up with in the end? But anyway, let's have this poll. Okay, so the question is, in the poll, do you think Jay's death was accidental? We're going to have a yes, a no, a don't know, or not sure. Any other options? So do you think Jay's death was accidental? Yes, no, or not sure. That's what I'm going to put on the poll. I don't think there's any other option for that. Yes, no, not sure. Do you think Jay's death was accidental? Yes, no, not sure. And then we can have it for the people that think not sure later. Maybe we can, or no. We could have a. Sure. So we've got yes, no, not sure, and foul play. I think we'll have. All right. So put poll up. Now, I think there's quite a few of you here. Let's see how many people. Is it, so there's over 50 people here at the moment, I think. Oh, 73 people at this moment in time, according to my StreamYard. So, yeah. Yes. Do you think Jay's death is accidental? Yes, no, not sure, definitely foul play or foul play. That's your options. I'm going to leave it up for about 10 minutes or so. Oh. So we knew that was coming from day one, didn't we, really? I mean, you know, I do feel with Dr. Adeley, he goes into these cases already thinking, you know, what decision he's going to make. As I say, with the Nicola Bulley case, the inquest is up on my channel, the whole inquest, over the 3 days, was it? 2 days? And also there's a summary of the inquest somewhere on my channel. As soon as I said yesterday, as soon as Dr. Adeley asked, I think it was Paul, or asked somebody who knew her well, might have been Louise, would you say Nicola was a holiday swimmer? As soon as he said that, I thought it's going to be accidental death. Just knew that's what he was leading up to right from day one, and I don't think that's right. Now, personally, I would say that Jay Slater's, I agree that it was an accidental death. I think there's mystery surrounding it, you know, but I think it's not so much mystery as just the fact everyone was off their face. But I do believe it was accidental death in the end. Whereas with Nicola Bulley, I don't think it was clear it was accidental death at all. You know, there's no proof that it was accidental death whatsoever. And in fact, there is, you know, there was the screams, there was the man in black, there was other things with Nicola's death that was strange, I think, that led me to think that, not that I necessarily believe it was foul play. I have no clue what happened to Nicola Bulley. No idea. I was not there. I've got my little theories. I feel like something happened. But I think it's much clearer with Nicola that it should have been an open verdict. But I do think this coroner, he almost makes a decision. Yeah, definitely. So, do you know what? It's true, mate. It's a surprise. I'm surprised he didn't say that, Mr. Adeley. Would you say it's true that Jay was a holiday hiker? Yeah. You know, he did make, his questions were leading questions, definitely. Hi, Tracy Gemini. Moonbeam thinks accident by misadventure. Of course, I didn't put that one in there. So you'd be a no on the, hi, Danielle. Foul play there. Jackie thinks it's foul play, you can see. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne. Oh, thank you, Yvonne. That's very kind. Yeah, I haven't pushed the likes and things because, you know, I don't really, when it's serious things like this, I don't really, I mean, they're all serious that we talk about, but hi, Paula. Hi, Shay. I didn't see you sneak in there. Yeah, but I'd like to see. Hi, Shay. Sorry, yeah, I see you now. Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, the most important thing now is the family, of course. I just don't know. You know, it's such a difficult time, isn't it, to lose a child under any circumstances. And, you know, for them to be, you know, he was only 19 at the end of the day, and he might have been a bit wayward or whatever, but I don't think he was any more wayward than a lot of young people at 19. It'll be all that, all them young people out there in Tenerife or here in Spain or wherever, going off on their holidays with their mates, they'll all be taking some sort of substance, drinking, doing daft things. Oh, this balcony jumping is popular now, isn't it? A lot of young people have died jumping balconies. I had a friend years ago that her daughter did that, nearly died. Balcony jumping from in the hotel rooms. Her daughter went off on a school trip, but she was 15 or something like that. Of course, they were all drinking the smuggled alcohol into the hotel room. They were jumping the balconies, and her daughter fell about 3 or 4 floors, and it was just lucky that she bounced off something before she hit the ground. Though I say lucky, I mean, she was taken to hospital. My friend, she was told that she wouldn't survive. She had to rush off to, can't remember if it was Madrid or Barcelona. It's one of the big cities in Spain, where she'd gone on this school trip. She's about 14, 15. Off she had to go. She was told her daughter would not survive. She had terrible head injuries. Anyway, she did survive, and she's okay now, and she's had children. She's an adult now, obviously. She's probably, I'm trying to think how old she'd be now, maybe 30 even, maybe even a little bit older, because it was a long time ago. Balcony jumping, falling off cliffs because they get too drunk and they lose the way and they don't realise there's a steep drop. There was someone recently, wasn't there, jumping over a wall that was not very high on one side and there was a steep drop over the other side. When young people go on holiday and get drunk, not only young people, anyone who goes off on holiday gets absolutely bladdered and then maybe takes substances as well. There's a high chance of them having an accident, really. And the other thing you have to remember is the measures, as far as alcohol is concerned. The measures are so much stronger. And if you're from Britain or anywhere where your drinks get measured out into when I go to Britain now and I have a short, I'm like, where is it? Where is it's like a spit in the bottom of the glass. It's like nothing, is it? And then you come to Spain and you get, proper measures. And I mean, I'm used to them. Now. I've lived here all this time. But I remember when I went on holiday when I was a kid and getting absolutely bladdered. That's what you do because you're not used to that quantity of alcohol. And then along with maybe other substances that people take. They'd been at a festival for 3 days. He was not in his best physical condition. And it's a very sad accident. It's heartbreaking, actually, because if he would have just stayed where he was, instead of trying to find his way back or try and find his way forward, just stayed where he was, told Lucy, that he was lost, and she would have been able to get the police out. They would have got the mountain rescue team out. They would have found him. With the dogs or with the heat-seeking equipment, they would have found him probably that same day. But unfortunately, that wasn't to be, and that's a shame. But it is a shame. Yeah. Do you remember, what you're saying? Anyway, everyone's entitled to their views, say what they want on the thing, but, I also have the right to say, I don't think it's anything to do with sex trafficking or anything like that. But anyway, no, I don't think it was. So that's my opinion. Which I'm entitled to too. And do you remember that awful photo that came out? This is the depths that social media people will go to, some social media people. And, they make me angry because then all social media people get tarnished with the same brush. So there was that horrible picture that came out of that young lad with a dog collar around his neck. Do you remember that? And everyone was saying, oh, this is Jay. Who does that? Who are these people? that sit at home and try and cause pain to families whose children are missing by releasing a picture like that was not Jay. But, well, one, it causes misery to the families because this person looked like they'd been beat up a little bit, didn't they? And they would look like some sort of S&M was going on. And this, whoever found that picture and released it said it was Jay. And then, of course, the way social media is now, next minute it's all over TikTok and all over YouTube. And so, you know, all over X, etc. And of course, it was not Jay. But then that it's manifold bad reasons that, you know, reasons why I can't understand people do that. One, because they must be sick or something, but also causes misery to the family. They don't care about the family, those people. They don't, you know, and you think they're inviting a lot of karma onto themselves. I hope they never have to find out what it's like to have their loved one depicted, or somebody saying that's their loved one, and this is, you know, things that have happened to them that haven't really happened to them, because that was released before it was known, I think, what had happened to Jay. So imagine family seeing that. You know, if my son had gone missing and then someone sent me that picture, oh, and people were phoning Debbie up and asking for ransom. Anyway, the other thing about that photo is it then wastes a load of police time, because the police have to look into everything, because the police can't not look into it. And then afterwards, it turns out it was Jay. And the police, you know, why didn't you look into it? So it wastes time. I mean, these are just horrible, sad people. I mean, really, really sad people with sad lives who nobody will ever care about. You know, nobody will ever care about, even their own people. Their own family won't care about them, because they're nasty, horrible people, and they don't deserve anything nice, and they need to watch out for karma, because maybe there are some people that they care about. They wouldn't like to see that happen to them, but you know, karma. I've seen some karma a few days ago. I'm not going to say who it was or what happened, but as soon as I saw it, I thought, that is karma if I ever knew. And I mean, I've had to experience karma. I've never done anything, well, I say really terrible. It probably felt terrible to the people I was doing it to. You know, I'm not an angel and I'm not a saint, and I've had karma for things that I know that I did wrong when I was young. I try now not to do things wrong, but I do fail miserably a lot of the time. But I've had experienced karma. Karma is real. And the other day, yeah, I saw some karma. I mean, it was very sad karma, but it was, you know, anyway, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm just not. But it was obvious. It was karma for something terrible that this person had done to someone's family. Really terrible, a bit like trolling, really. And then a very similar thing happened to their family. And it's definitely karma. I just thought, do you know what? I mean, it's terrible. I feel for them. But there's a part of me that just thinks, well, you know, you didn't care about the other person when you were making them feel awful. And now you're feeling what they felt. So it does exist, karma, definitely. I've seen it happen many, many times. Right, let's have a look at this poll. Hi, Mrs. Unique. Tracy, Tunisia. What, you going solo or sola? Are you, I don't know if you're a man or a woman. You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, you've called Tracy on there, but that means nothing, you know. With Tunisia is a funny old place. For women, I think I would not personally go to Tunisia alone. I would go, but having said that, I had a student just recently, loves Tunisia, lived in Tunisia for a while, but he is a man. To know about Tunisia now. Do you remember years ago, it used to be very popular, didn't it? I remember, because I still remember the adverts for Tunisia. It was, in your dreams, you've been to Tunisia, and those beautiful blue seas, and, you know, and maybe, it's just one of those countries. As a woman, if I was a blonde woman traveling on my own, I would not feel comfortable. But I don't know. Maybe you've been before and you know better than me. I've never been to Tunisia. Now I would go. Hi, Vicky84. I would probably go if I had the opportunity to go. Just because I've never been before, but it's not somewhere I would choose to go to. Yeah, 3 falls from balconies, ACW, in 3 weeks in Hard Rock, Ibiza. My niece was there just a couple of weeks ago. She won't be doing balcony jumping, that's for sure. And they've now cancelled the coming festival. Now, that's a shame, isn't it? Because these people have to be protected from themselves almost. That's not, somebody, I think I was reading one article, it was a family saying, what was that one? Was that a balcony fall? Where they were complaining about the way the hotel had treated it. But, these there's not much that the hotels can do except tell people not to do it, really, isn't it? You can't control what somebody does. Can you? Grown up adults shouldn't be doing that. I mean, they could make the balcony. I mean, they have made the balconies a lot higher, haven't they, than they used to be. In most, I know in Benidorm, the last time I went to Benidorm, my friend had booked this apartment. There was quite a few of us went. Oh my God, it was right on the top of this massive high-rise apartment block. I mean, it was a beautiful view over the beach. It was absolutely beautiful. Lovely big terrace. I couldn't sit on it. I couldn't go out the sliding doors. I had vertigo. It was so high up. And I tell you what, if people did balcony jumping over there, and I just was up there and I just thought, God, if somebody felt like unaliving themselves, they'd only have to jump over this balcony. It was almost calling to you. It was really weird. It was like, so I was like stood at the sliding door, like I wouldn't even go onto the terrace, and I'm like hanging onto it as if I'm going to fall off. That's how it felt. It was so high. Oh my God, I don't like those big high up things. Not at all. But I mean, it was a lovely apartment and it was a lovely view, and we stayed there for the weekend. We had a great time. But if that would have been me booking that, I would have made sure I wasn't right on the top floor. But that's just me. But hotels and things, they can't be held responsible for people jumping off balconies or doing balcony jumping, can they? I don't think, Okay, you've got 1 more minute or a couple of minutes. You're welcome. You are a woman, Tracy. Have you been to Tunisia before, Tracy? Have you been before? Am I wrong to think that I wouldn't feel comfortable there as a woman on my own? Or do you not know yet? Thank you, Mrs. Unique. Let's have a look at this. Right, you've got just a couple of minutes to what's the word? You've been before and you felt safe. Okay, good, fine. Yeah, just me maybe. Yeah, couple of minutes to answer the poll. Do you think Jay's death was an accident? Yes, no, foul play. At the moment, we're on no's 43%, I can see, but I can't see the rest of it. Right, I'm going to reveal the poll. Let's have a look. Where's the poll gone? I feel like it's disappeared. Can anyone see the poll? Oh, can't see the result of the poll. Is it just me, or why can't I see the results of the poll? So ACW says you're safe there as a woman on your own. ACW, did you go? Oh, you can see it. What's the result? Read the result out for me, please. Somebody, or sorry, not read it out. Put it in the thing, because I don't know why I can't see it. Ah, yeah, maybe I'll have to look on my phone. Oh, it's come up now. It's come up. It just took its time in coming up. So do you think Jay's death was accidental? No, he's 41%. So it's close. We've got 25% foul play. Not sure, 18%. And yes, 14%. What? So was accidental? No. Oh, so most people don't think. Only 14% think it was accidental. Of course, that's just the people that are on here. 48 votes out of there were more people than that in the chat at the time. 68 now, but obviously not everybody's going to vote. But yeah, interesting. It's going to be one of these. Oh, thank you, Moonbeam. Hi, Joanne. You're still unsure. Yeah, a lot of people are, it's I think the thing is with all these types of cases, we weren't there. Nobody was there. Only Jay was there, or maybe other people. We don't know. Thank you, T. Yvonne says, I got hassled there in shorts and T-shirts. On a moped in shorts. And listen, because where I live in Spain, there are a lot of Moroccans. And, it's just the fact I'm the last person in the world to be biased against race or religion. Anyone who watches my channel regularly will know that. But believe me, they have, you do get hassled as a blonde British woman. They seem to think you're sort of a fair play or something. Not all of them, of course, not all of them. Of course, you can't judge everybody. But I think part of that sometimes is because of the way British people behave in Spain. No, it's like maybe it's because of that. I don't know. You do get hassle sometimes. But then, of course, sometimes you get hassle from Spanish men, or any men. It makes me sound like some sort of femme fatale. I'm not, but sometimes you just do get. I think it's the blondes, maybe. I never used to be blonde, and people perhaps more thought that I was Spanish. As I've got older, I think it's the sun has just bleached my hair blonde. I mean, literally, I don't have to put a colour on. I try and put colours on to darken it a bit, and it just goes blonde again. And I think it must be the sun, not that I'm ever out in the sun. Or maybe it's just grey with a bit of blonde in it. I don't know. But my natural colour actually is brunette. But it's just faded out over the years. Yeah, I suppose you have to, whenever you're in another country, whichever country it is, first of all, you have to respect their traditions, don't they? If you go to another country, I remember when I went to Malta years ago, and when we went in the church, we had to wear headscarves and things. And that's fair enough, the other thing that I know in some, I just don't know what the reason is. Maybe it's just me, because I am a bit hypersensitive as well. So maybe I should try it. Maybe I should try it and see how I get on. Go to a country like Tunisia. And, I'd love to go. I love going to foreign countries, and I love experiencing foreign culture. And I would go along with whatever the culture is. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that one day. Okay, so that's it. So that's the result. I want to thank everybody for being with me through this inquest, caring about Jay, caring about his family. And as I say, whatever thoughts we have about the whole thing, whatever we believe, and, you know, a lot of us have different views on what happened to Jay, but we all care about Jay at least, I think. So that's the most important thing. Now, we're not going to see Dr. Adeley again, are we, as a coroner? That's his last one, is it? Unless some big case comes up, I suppose, that he thinks that will go in his book or he'll be able to make a film out of. It'd be interesting to see what happens with the documentary on Jay when it comes out. As I say, the film crew were there, because this documentary that's coming out about Jay is made by his family, isn't it? It'll be interesting to see the fallout from this inquest verdict. And will Rocco ever turn up? I mean, I just look at him and I just think, you know, he doesn't look like the most intelligent person in the world, does he? You know, and I've heard him talking, I've seen him on the podcast and that. He's another one, he's just out of it. Yeah, bro, he's my boy. You know, it's like he's just out of it. Not, you know, I don't think he's a murderer. I don't know what the police want him for, but he's definitely a sketchy character, isn't he? As is Brandon, as is Ayub, really. You know, a little bit sketchy, but it doesn't mean to say they're murderers, does it? You know, so at least Ayub turned up, you know, on video link. Be interesting to see what we hear maybe from Lucy at some future point. What did the coroner mean when he said she wouldn't be attending the inquest due to her condition? What does that mean? What is her condition? So there'll be some fallout from this, and as I say, we'll be looking forward to the documentary, see if that offers anything else. It probably won't, but my main thoughts, of course, are with Debbie Warren, Zak, the family. I hope, I don't know, they find some peace. I just can't imagine how it feels to lose your son like that. You know, there was Warren when he was traipsing around the mountain trying to find Jay. Very sad. Okay, I'm going to play us out with the little tribute to Jay. Let's have a look at him dancing first again. I like to watch the videos of him dancing that night because he does look like he had a good time. Sorry. I might play that right at the end, because that's quite a nice song that will, cheerful song that will cheer us up. So yeah, I do like to watch the videos of him having a good time. He went a bit over the top, but at least he enjoyed himself, I think. You could safely say that, bless him. Hope he's dancing in heaven. In fact, I've got a nice little, I'm going to play that as well. I'm going to play a few things now, just tributes to Jay, just to finish off. Thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Tell me, what does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful, like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone away? 'Cause here on earth, it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth, everything's different. There's an emptiness. I hope you're dancing in the sky. I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. And I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice in heaven now that you've arrived. So tell me, what do you do in heaven? Are your days filled with love and light? Is there music? Is there art and adventure? Tell me, are you happy? Are you more alive? 'Cause here on earth, it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth, everything's different. There's an emptiness. I hope you're dancing in the sky. And I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. And I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice in heaven now you've arrived. I hope you're dancing in the sky. And I hope you're singing in the angels' choir. And I hope the angels know what they have. I bet it's so nice in heaven since you arrived.